How do we know they were here at 6:15? Well, we have an eyewitness. Ian Huntley here is a familiar figure.
Huntley was a caretaker at a nearby school. This, an extraordinary interview with Sky News. The words of a calculated killer.
How did they seem to you?
Seemed fine, very cheerful, happy, chatty. I didn't see anything untoward, nobody hanging around. You know, just seemed like normal, happy kids.
Safe and well?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you may, as it turned out, have been the last person to actually chat to them before they vanished.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
And it's a mystery.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody around here, I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of people, and what they're saying is, you know, while there's no news, then there's still that glimmer of hope.
But his readiness to speak to the press made police suspicious.
The 28-year-old man has been arrested for the murder and abduction of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman.
And Huntley was later charged with their murders after the girls' bodies were found in a ditch. What he did inside this house saw him jailed for life in 2003.
26th February 2026. HMP Frankland, County Durham. A prison workshop. Ordinary morning. A man is working. 52 years old. Known inside these walls, but not for reasons he could ever escape. Then another inmate crosses the room. 43 years old, already serving a whole life sentence, already with nothing left to lose. What happened next took seconds. A spiked metal pole, repeated blows to the head, so severe, so sustained. That part of the weapon lodged in the man's skull. He was airlifted to hospital, placed on life support, and 9 days later, he was gone. The inmate who attacked him didn't run, didn't hide. He stood there and he said, "I have done it. I have killed him." Now, here is what you need to know. Almost nobody cried. Not the public, not the press, not even his own daughter, who said quietly and without apology that his ashes should be flushed down the toilet. The man who died on that life support machine on March 7th, 2026 was not mourned. And to understand why, you have to go back. Back to a small town in Cambridgeshire. Back to a summer afternoon in 2002. Back to two little girls in matching football shirts who walked past the wrong house on the wrong day. His name was Ian Huntley, and by the time this is over, you'll understand exactly why a prison full of convicted killers celebrated the day he died.
It was a life that began in Grimsby in Lincolnshire, and over the course of 4 years here, he was the subject of multiple rape and sexual assault allegations made to police in Humberside involving young girls. After his arrest, it emerged that Huntley had been able to work with children here at Soham Village College over 100 miles away in Cambridge, despite these reports.
August 4th, 2002, Soham, Cambridgeshire. A Sunday afternoon in summer. Holly Wells was 10 years old. Jessica Chapman was 10 years old. Best friends. They show up to things wearing the same clothes without planning it, which is exactly what they did that day. Matching red Manchester United shirts, both of them. They'd spent the afternoon at a family barbecue, laughing, eating, doing what 10-year-olds do on a warm August Sunday. At some point, they decided to head out, find a vending machine, get some sweets. They walked down College Road, past houses they knew, past people they recognized, and then they passed one house in particular, number 5, College Close. The man inside saw them, and he opened the door. He told them his girlfriend was home, Maxine, their teaching assistant from school, someone they knew, someone they trusted. "Come in," he said. "She's here." She wasn't. Maxine Carr was 150 miles away in Grimsby, visiting family. Ian Huntley knew that. He knew it when he said it. The girls stepped inside. The door closed. They never came back out. Forensic evidence and trial testimony would later establish what happened in that house. Both girls, most likely killed by asphyxiation, shortly after they entered. At trial, Huntley offered a different version. Holly, he said, had a nosebleed. Slipped in the bath while he was helping her. Drowned accidentally. And Jessica, He suffocated Jessica to silence her screaming. He said it like that made it better. Like accident and then panic were somehow less than what they were. The jury didn't believe a word of it. Neither did anyone else. What came next was not panic. It was not the frantic, chaotic behavior of a man who had made a terrible mistake. It was deliberate. He cleaned the house, thoroughly. Then he loaded their bodies into the boot of his Ford Mondeo, and he drove. 20 miles south, near RAF Lakenheath in Suffolk, there was an irrigation ditch, hidden, off the kind of road that nobody drives unless they already know it's there. He dumped their bodies in a shallow ditch. Then he tried to burn the remains. He burned their clothes, too. Those matching red Manchester United shirts. He tried to make them disappear completely. At 6:46 in the evening, Jessica Chapman's mobile phone went dark, switched off, in the vicinity of his house. It was a small detail. It didn't seem like much at the time, but that timestamp, that precise, digital, irrefutable moment, would later place both girls at Ian Huntley's address. On the last evening of their lives. When it was done, he got back in the car, drove back to Soham, pulled up outside 5 College Close, walked inside, sat down, and began planning exactly what he was going to say. By that same evening, Soham knew something was wrong. Holly and Jessica hadn't come home, and within hours, the search began. What followed became one of the largest missing persons operations in British history. Hundreds of police officers, volunteers from across the region, U.S. Air Force personnel deployed from nearby bases, all of them searching, all of them hoping. And there, right in the middle of it, was Ian Huntley. He gave interviews, appeared on Sky News, spoke to local television cameras, stood in front of reporters with a look of concern so convincing that nobody questioned it. He described seeing the girls on his doorstep that evening. Said they'd chatted briefly, said they seemed fine, said he hoped they'd be found soon. But then, the questions. Slipped in between the concern, casual, almost conversational. Do you think their clothes would still be intact after this long? Would DNA survive out in the open? 13 days passed. 13 days of searching. 13 days of Huntley in front of cameras. Then on the 17th of August, 2002, a gamekeeper walking near RAF Lakenheath found something in a ditch. The search was over. The investigation was just beginning. Forensic teams moved fast. Fibers, hair, blood traces, car evidence. Every thread led back to the same address. 5 College Close, Soham. Huntley and Carr were arrested the same day. And Maxine Carr, the woman whose name he had used to lure 2 little girls through his front door, told police she had been with him that evening, that the girls had visited, that everything was fine. A lie, delivered to protect a man she would later claim she didn't know was capable of this. The man who had spent nearly 2 weeks on television, urging the public to help find Holly and Jessica, was the man who killed them. And the deeper investigators looked, the clearer something else became. This did not have to happen, not even close. So who was he before any of this? Ian Kevin Huntley, born 31st of January, 1974 in Grimsby, Lincolnshire. Eldest of 2 sons, working class family. As a child he was timid, suffered from asthma, described by people who knew him as a loner, an oddball, a boy who wanted attention but never quite knew how to earn it the right way. He was bullied at school. Then he joined the Air Training Corps for a time. Thought briefly about the RAF. Never followed through. But he kept the plane spotting. Spent time near air bases. He was a Manchester United fan, passionate about it. Which makes the detail of those matching red shirts. The shirts Holly and Jessica were wearing the day they walked past. His house. Almost impossible to sit with. In 1995, he married a woman named Claire Evans. Short romance, quick commitment. The marriage collapsed within weeks. What Claire experienced in that time was not a difficult relationship. It was violence, control, sexual assault, beatings, emotional blackmail so relentless she could barely breathe. She got out, and then she married his brother, Wayne Huntley, What that tells you about the lengths she went to in order to move forward and away from him says everything. Between 1995 and 2001, Ian Huntley was involved in inappropriate relationships with girls, multiple girls. He used grooming and manipulation, showing affection, then pulling it away, applying emotional pressure so slowly that many victims didn't fully understand what was happening until later. And when situations became difficult, he simply used a different name. One of those girls became pregnant. In 1998, she gave birth to a daughter, Samantha Bryan. Samantha grew up not knowing who her father was. Nobody told her. Years passed. And then one day she found out. When Ian Huntley died in 2026, Samantha spoke publicly. She said she felt relief. She said his ashes should be flushed down the toilet. That is the legacy he left his own daughter. Now, the record. Because this needs to be stated clearly. 1995 to 1996. Inappropriate relationships with girls aged. 1996. Burglary charges. Later dropped. 1998 to 1999. Multiple assault allegations. The official count by 2001. At least 10 complaints to Humberside Police. 5 separate referrals to social services. 10, and almost none of it went anywhere. Cases collapsed. Victims withdrew, some under pressure, some too frightened to continue. Evidence was deemed insufficient. Files were closed. And here is the detail that makes all of it worse. He wasn't even using his real name. He called himself Ian Nixon, his mother's maiden name, a simple alias. Enough to fracture the paper trail, enough to slip between databases, enough to make 10 complaints look like almost nothing, because they were scattered across different forces, different systems, different records that were never joined together. February 1999, a nightclub in Grimsby. Ian Huntley met Maxine Ann Carr. She moved in within weeks. They became engaged. In 2001, they relocated to East Anglia together. Fresh start, new area, nobody who knew him. Huntley's father was a caretaker, and through him, Ian heard about a vacancy. Soham Village College needed a senior caretaker. He applied, under the name Ian Nixon. Humberside Police were contacted as part of the process. They held records on him. Complaints, allegations, years of them. But the records had not been properly maintained. Intelligence had been deleted. The alias created confusion. In November 2001, Ian Huntley was appointed senior caretaker at Soham Village College. No full background check was conducted. Around the same time, Maxine Carr applied for a voluntary teaching assistant position at a local primary school, St. Andrews. She got it, where Wells and Jessica Chapman were pupils. The couple settled at 5 College Close, yards from the school, embedded in the community, trusted, known. Holly and Jessica knew Maxine Carr. She was their teaching assistant, a familiar face, a safe name. And on August 4th, 2002, that familiarity, that trust those 2 little girls had in a woman they knew from school, is exactly what Ian Huntley used to get them through his front door. We're heading into the trial, the prison years, the attacks, and what investigators discovered next would change British policing forever. Before we continue, if you enjoy deep true crime stories like this, consider subscribing. Cases like this one deserve to be told properly and remembered completely. November 5th, 2003, the Old Bailey, London. Ian Huntley took his place in the dock and denied everything. For a while, that was his position. Total denial. Nothing happened. The girls left his doorstep. He had nothing to do with any of it. Then, midway through the trial, he shifted. New story. The girls did come inside, he said, but what happened was an accident. Holly had a nosebleed, slipped in the bath, drowned, and Jessica. He said he suffocated Jessica to stop her screaming. He offered this like it was somehow different, like accident, and then panic deserved a different name than murder. The prosecution didn't need long. They laid it out piece by piece. The forensic evidence, the burned remains, the specific, deliberate drive to RAF Lakenheath, the 2 weeks of media interviews, the questions about DNA, the false alibi Carr provided. None of it, not a single detail, fit the behavior of a man who had panicked. All of it fit the behavior of a man who had planned. December the 17th, 2003, the jury returned. Guilty, both counts. 11 votes to 1. 2 life sentences. And in 2005, the High Court went further. A minimum term of 40 years. No parole consideration, not before 2042. The judge described him as cruel, a man who had caused suffering that would never fully end for the families of those 2 girls. Maxine Carr was convicted separately, not of murder, of perverting the course of justice, the false alibi, the lie she told to protect him. She received 3.5 years, was released after 21 months, and was later granted a new legal identity, a new name, a new life, something Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman never got. Ian. Huntley entered the prison system as one of the most hated men in Britain. He knew what that meant. Category A, Belmarsh, then Wakefield, then HMP Frankland in County Durham from 2008. Long stretches in protective custody, because on the general population, he was a target every day. 2003, less than a year into his sentence. He attempted suicide, overdose of antidepressants. He survived. 2005, a fellow prisoner at Wakefield threw boiling water over him. 2006, he made a secret confession tape. What was on it was not fully made public. 2007, he went further. Confessed to an assault on an 11-year-old girl in 1997, a crime that predated even the pattern that was already on record. Another child. Another admission that came only years after the fact. 2010. An inmate named Damien Folks got close enough at Frankland to slash his throat. Huntley required stitches. Survived again. Then, 26th February 2026, HMP Frankland, a prison workshop. A fellow inmate named Anthony Russell was in that workshop with him. Russell was 43 years old, already serving a whole life order. 3 murders, a rape, committed in 2020, a man with nothing left to lose. The reported trigger. Huntley had been bullying him. Russell picked up a spiked metal pole, and he didn't stop. The force of the blows was such that part of the weapon lodged in Huntley's skull. He was rushed to the Royal Victoria Infirmary in Newcastle. Catastrophic brain trauma, placed on life support. Around 6th March 2026, that support was withdrawn. 7th March 2026. Ian Kevin Huntley was pronounced dead, 52 years old. Russell was heard shouting as it happened, "I have done it. I have killed him." He was later charged with murder, appeared in court that same month. Does Huntley's death inside prison change how you feel about the justice the system delivered in 2003? Or are those 2 completely separate things? Tell me what you think below. In 2004, the Bychard Inquiry published its findings, and what it found was damning. Humberside police had deleted non-conviction intelligence. The complaints about Huntley, the allegations, the pattern stretching back years, erased, not lost, not misfiled, deleted. Cambridgeshire police had failed to properly vet his application. The alias went unchallenged. The gaps went unquestioned. Nobody picked up the phone to join it all together. 2 forces, 2 failures, and 2 little girls who paid for it. Holly and Jessica's families have never stopped carrying them. Annual tributes in Soham, a memorial that holds their names, a town that remembers 2 little girls, not as victims, as children. Holly Marie Wells and Jessica Amy Chapman never got the chance to grow up. This case belongs to them, and to every child better protected today, because of what their deaths forced this country to finally face. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth cases.